They left me for dead in the desert, thought they could get away with it. But they don't know who I am, or what I'm capable of. Now it's my turn. One by one, they will pay for what they did. This is my story, and my revenge starts now. I thought this would be the perfect weekend. Richard, my wealthy lover, invited me to his secluded luxury home in the desert. I'm Jen, young and full of dreams about moving to LA. I thought Richard could help make those dreams a reality. We arrived by helicopter, and I was so excited to spend time alone with him. We had fun, drinking, dancing, and flirting. I seduced him, and after we slept together, he called his wife. That part didn't bother me too much, though. I knew what this was, but still, I had a strange sense of control over the situation. Everything was fine until the next day. His friends, Stan and Dimitri, arrived early. Richard had planned for me to leave before they showed up, but now I was stuck here, introduced as some casual fling. The night went on, and we all partied together. I remember doing a seductive dance. Richard didn't want to join in, but Stan did. I was just having fun playing along, but I could see the way Stan looked at me, like I was some prize to be won. The next morning, things changed. Richard left me alone with Stan and Dimitri. I felt a shift in the air, an uncomfortable tension that I couldn't quite place. Then it all happened so fast. Stan tried to kiss me and I rejected him. He didn't take it well. His flirtation quickly turned into aggression, and before I knew it, he was forcing himself on me. I screamed, fought, tried everything to get him off me, but he was too strong. Dimitri saw what was happening, but he just stood there, doing nothing, ignoring my cries for help. It felt like hours before Richard returned, and when I told him what happened, I thought he would defend me, protect me, but he didn't. Instead, he tried to calm things down, acting like it was all no big deal. When I demanded to leave, he offered me money and even suggested I move to Canada on his dime. That's when I threatened to expose everything to his wife. That's when things took a deadly turn. Richard slapped me, hard. My vision blurred, and I realized I had no idea who this man really was. I ran, out into the desert, barefoot, desperate to escape. But they followed me, Richard, Stan, and Dimitri, hunting me like I was some animal. It was Richard who finally caught up to me at the edge of a cliff. There was nowhere to run, nowhere to hide. He shoved me and I fell. The world around me spun as I plummeted down the cliff, smashing against rocks, branches, anything in my path. I felt a sharp, agonizing pain as a dead tree branch pierced through my chest. The impact knocked the air out of my lungs. The world went dark, and for a moment, I thought I was dead. But I wasn't. Somehow, I was still alive, bleeding and impaled on that branch, but alive. My body was broken, but my mind, my will to survive, kicked in. I gritted my teeth and pulled myself free. The pain almost unbearable, but I had no other choice. Every breath burned. Every movement sent waves of agony through my body, but I refused to give up. I couldn't let them win. As night fell, I knew I had to hide. The men would return, searching for me, wanting to finish what they started. I set out again, determined to end this. It wasn't long before I found Dimitri. He was by himself, and as soon as he saw me, I knew what he was thinking, that I was weak, vulnerable, easy prey. But he was wrong. I fought him off, and in the struggle, I grabbed his hunting knife and plunged it into his eye. The look of shock on his face as he fell to the ground lifeless was something I'll never forget. But I didn't feel guilty. This was survival. This was justice. I took Dimitri's shotgun and I found a cave, my mind clouded by pain and exhaustion. I stumbled inside, trying to focus, to plan my next move. That's when I remembered the peyote Richard had brought. I took it, hoping it would help numb the pain, clear my mind. What followed was a surreal, heightened state of clarity. I realized I needed to take the branch out, to stop the bleeding. Using the fire, I heated a beer can and pressed it against the wound, searing my flesh to cauterize it. The pain was blinding, but I survived. The brand left on my skin was that of a phoenix, a symbol of rebirth. I wasn't the same after that. The pain had changed me, but more than that, the betrayal had ignited something in me. I wasn't just fighting for my life anymore, I wanted revenge. I was fueled by rage, the need for retribution burning in my veins. I saw them up ahead. Richard and Stan looked tense, probably realizing that I wasn't as dead as they had hoped. I stayed hidden, watching them from a distance. I knew I needed to deal with Stan before I could face Richard. He was the next one on my list. Stan drove off in an SUV, likely trying to cover more ground and track me down. I followed him quietly, keeping to the shadows. He had no idea I was there, no idea what was coming. When he stopped to fill the gas tank, I made my move. The adrenaline was rushing through me as I ambushed him, firing the shotgun. He was quicker than I expected, and what followed was a bloody, chaotic gunfight. The sound of bullets echoed in the desert. I could feel my heart pounding in my chest, every muscle in my body screaming in exhaustion. But I couldn't let him win. Stan managed to get back into the SUV, trying to run me over, but I wasn't going to let him escape. I fired again, hitting him. Blood sprayed across the windshield as he slumped over the wheel dead. The SUV skidded to a halt, his lifeless body still inside. I found my way back to the villa, my steps slow but determined. Richard had gone inside, likely preparing for his escape. He must have realized something was wrong when he couldn't reach Stan on the radio. I could see him through the windows, frantically making calls, trying to arrange a helicopter to come pick him up. But I wasn't going to let him leave. Not after everything he had done to me. I could hear Richard moving through the house, his footsteps echoing off the walls. He was looking for me, but I was ready for him this time. My heart raced as I waited, listening to every sound, every movement. Finally, he came into view, and before he could react, I fired, hitting him in the stomach. The blast knocked him back, and he fell to the ground, clutching his wound. Blood poured from his body, staining the floor beneath him. But Richard wasn't done. Even with the wound, he was still dangerous, still trying to end this. He managed to get back on his feet, and what followed was a brutal chase through the house. Blood from Richard's stomach wound splattered across every surface as we moved, a reminder of the violence that had consumed this place. My body ached, my lungs burned, but I couldn't let him win. The villa that had once seemed so luxurious and glamorous now felt like a battlefield. In a final, desperate moment, Richard caught me, his hands wrapped around my throat. I could feel my vision fading, the edges of my consciousness blurring. But I wasn't ready to die. Not like this. With every ounce of strength I had left, I shoved my hand into his stomach wound, twisting and digging into the flesh. Richard screamed in agony, his grip loosening as the pain overwhelmed him. I didn't stop. I kept pushing, kept fighting until finally, Richard collapsed. His body hit the floor with a sickening thud, and I knew it was over. I stood there, covered in blood, some mine, some his, gasping for breath. My entire body shook with exhaustion, but I had done it. I had survived. I walked out of the villa, my body beaten and bruised but still standing. I had won, but as I looked out at the vast, empty landscape, I knew that the woman I was before was gone. This experience had changed me, burned away my innocence, leaving behind someone new, someone stronger, someone who had faced death and come out alive.